My name is Jonathan Wilson, and this is my presentation on the Corporate Transparency Act, brought to you by Quimbee. Thank you very much for joining me today. In my presentation today, I'm going to talk about the Corporate Transparency Act, how it was intended as a solution to fight money laundering, and how it is going to affect corporate governance and the practice of corporate lawyers in the United States. Now, by way of background, traditionally in the United States, most companies are formed on an anonymous basis. You file articles of incorporation or articles of organization for an LLC with the Secretary of State in the state where you want to organize. The articles for both corporations and LLCs are very limited in the information they disclose. They might include the number of authorized shares. They would provide the registered address for the corporation. They would indicate the name of the incorporator, but that's it. It wouldn't identify the individuals behind the company. It wouldn't identify the shareholders of the company. And it might not even identify the directors of the corporation until the first annual report filed by the company. So in large measure, up until now, corporations and LLCs in the United States have been anonymous. Well, that is about to change. The Corporate Transparency Act, which was adopted by Congress in December of 2020, once it takes effect, is going to require almost every LLC, corporation, and limited partnership to file a beneficial ownership report with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of the U.S. Treasury that will disclose the beneficial owners of that company. And that is what the Corporate Transparency Act is about. That is going to be the focus of our presentation today. So let's go back. We said that the Corporate Transparency Act was intended to fight money laundering. What is money laundering? Well, if you have seen any television shows on organized crime and so on, you think about Breaking Bad and other big shows like that, they almost always focus to some degree on money laundering. And money laundering is a huge problem, both in the United States and on an international basis. One United Nations report back in 2020 calculated that the annual amount of money being laundered for illegal purposes is $800 billion, or somewhere between 2 and 5% of global domestic product. Now, that is a huge factor. $800 billion a year being laundered by organized crime into the money system. That was one of the reasons behind the change in U.S. law that is the Corporate Transparency Act. The other big change is that between the United States and most of the industrialized world, in particular the European Union, the United States was somewhat alone in permitting anonymous corporations. That practice had been outlawed years ago throughout most of the EU. And most of the EU corporations and other entities have to file their capital tables, their table of beneficial ownership, either with the Securities Commissioner or some similar government organization, so that the ultimate beneficial owners of the company are known. And as we said, that has not been the case in the United States up until now. So how exactly does money laundering work? And how is the Corporate Transparency Act intended to stop money laundering? Well, as you'll see, one of the key aspects to almost any form of money laundering is the concept of corporate anonymity. But money laundering has basically 4 steps to it. The criminal enterprise generates cash or other valuable items as a consequence of their illicit activity. Imagine, the pile of cash that gets exchanged at a drug buy that you might see in a crime show on TV, for example. Step 2, the criminal enterprise has to layer the illegal cash into clean cash that has been derived from some legitimate business. If you think back to the show Breaking Bad, for example, Jesse was trying to launder his money through the nail salon. They would take the deposits of illegal cash, mix it in with deposits from the legally derived business, and then deposit all that cash into the nail salon's bank account. At that point, the legal business, the nail salon, is going to pay taxes on all the money, even though portions of it were derived from criminal enterprise. And once it's been taxed, it appears, at least from an IRS point of view, as if the cash has been legally derived. The third step is called is the destruction of the layering. Once the layering takes place, you go back and you eliminate any evidence that the original source of some of your cash was illicit enterprise, and then as we said, the accumulated cash after it's been put through the tax system is clean. That's your 4 steps.